Welcome back to another episode, guys. Long time no see. Sorry about that. We've been busy. As always, I'm Nolan Akram. This is Jonathan Ellis. And yeah, welcome back again to recap KC. So, some things happened. Sneed got traded. Um, we're going to give our thoughts on the KU Kansas State seasons, in particular basketball. So yeah, let's get into it. Uh, Sneed was traded to the Titans for a third round pick, in 2025 going to Kansas City. And we're swapping seventh round picks, both teams. In particular, picks 221 and 252. So, and Tennessee's reportedly giving Sneed a 4-year, $76.4 million contract, and $55 million of that is guaranteed. Good for that man. He's worth every penny. I'm glad he got paid. Even if he couldn't get paid here. So, and he really obviously did have an all-pro caliber type season. Yeah. Any thoughts so far or opinions, John?
Like you mentioned, man, like Sneed getting traded. I did see though that weirdly enough, neither the Chiefs or the Titans have made any type of post on him. So it has been rumored that it hasn't been finalized yet. That maybe some speculation there that something's not right with the trade. However, I'm assuming he's probably going to get traded, and they just haven't said it. But typically by now, the teams would have already kind of posted the fact that the trade's been finalized. So that's interesting and something to keep an eye on. But other than that, man, like you said, it's great that he's getting paid. He's a solid secondary position there in football. However, I think we could have got a little bit more for him than a third round pick. But we can't complain too much. That's not terrible. But I don't know. I'd like to see something better. And other news for Chiefs too, man. Like, did you see that we just signed that rugby star Lewis Reese Summit?
I did, dude. I did see that. I mean, obviously, I
Yeah.
don't know much about the guy or rugby in general, but yeah, apparently he's one of the best rugby players in the world or something. I don't know.
Yeah, like a
He's
rugby
going to be
star,
playing.
bro.
He's going to be playing wideout and running back role or something like that, or some kind of hybrid role.
Yeah, I saw running back was going to be his main spot, but that's I think that's going to be a big sign, man. Just because obviously rugby is pretty aggressive and they can take a hit there. They don't really have pads and all that kind of stuff like they do in football. So I think he's going to be a tough guy. That's going to really bring some good notable offense for the Chiefs to help get us back to the Super Bowl.
But definitely, and I kind of agree with you on the return though for Snead. I was kind of a little disappointed, but I mean, I'm not too surprised. He is 27 years old. His knees were a concern all of last season, and so I'm not too terribly surprised. But at the same time, he did rank 1 in pass breakups, fewest throws targeted his way per coverage snap, and the lowest passer rating allowed. This I guess this was this previous season, but he was number 1 in all of those categories. And on top of that, 78 tackles and 2 interceptions. So,
Yep.
Do you think it's possible for us to three-peat without Snead?
I honestly I think it is definitely. I think we still have some solid pieces on defense, and then I think what we did this offseason, our offense is continuing to grow, and that was I feel like our major concern last year was just the fact that we didn't have that elite offense, but we kind of proved them wrong. I think if we get a solid offensive tackle in the draft, like we're kind of expected to pick up here, that we should be good enough offensively to make up for the defense. Though obviously the secondary is a slight concern considering Snead was the main guy back there, and there's not really a whole lot of other notable guys that really play that well back there. However, like I said, I think the offense is going to be enough to get us over that hump.
Yeah, I agree, and a lot of that obviously falls on the draft. Within the first 3 rounds, I feel the Chiefs, like I said, in no particular order, we need to get a left tackle, a wide receiver, and a cornerback.
Yep.
Because it's unlikely that Donovan Smith will return. As you know, he's a free agent, obviously, but he was inconsistent in the regular season, injury prone. going to be 31. We know how Brett Veach is about paying older guys like that.
Yep.
And it would create competition for Wanye Morris too, the tackle out of Oklahoma that we drafted last year. He only played 4 games this year. He definitely didn't prove himself. He needs to get more playing time in competition. And wide receiver would obviously just be nice to have alongside Rice or Brown. And McDuffie needs help back there as well. So I think those 3 positions need to be filled within the first 3 rounds for sure.
Well, yeah, no, exactly like you said, man. Like, offensive tackle is just somebody that we need to pick up. Is just because we've had a lot of penalties in that area in that regard. I saw like in the latest like mock draft, we're looking to get an offensive tackle in the first round, but like you said, I think we should definitely get a cornerback as well, considering that we lost Sneed or is projected to lose Sneed. Like I said, it hasn't been finalized, but he's probably gone. And
Yeah. Sorry.
yeah, other than that, wide receiver, I think we could wait till the 3rd round to get the wide receiver. I'd like to see us get a tackle and a cornerback first, if you ask me.
Yeah. I mean, I think honestly we could wait towards like 3rd or 4th round or whatever to get cornerbacks. I mean, Chiefs, particularly in the Brett Veach era, have been good at drafting corners, notably in the mid rounds, mid to late rounds. Jalen Watson, he was a 7th rounder. Joshua Williams, he was a 4th rounder. I mean, you remember Charvarius Ward? He was undrafted, but he was a Pro Bowler last year or a couple years ago or whatever for San Fran.
Yeah.
And obviously, L'Jarius Sneed was a 4th round pick. So, yeah, we're typically pretty good at snagging guys late in the draft. So, if we draft right, I think we totally have won this trade personally because it saves up money for us to re-sign guys like Humphrey and Trey Smith, or potentially just say, give that money to Nick Bolton, the quarterback of our defense, the second leader behind Chris Jones there. So, yeah, if we draft right, we totally won this trade, in my opinion.
No, I could agree with that too. Like you said, they're pretty good with drafting later in the rounds. So as long as like we know what we're doing, we can pick up some solid guys. Like I said, I think the offense is going to be good enough to really not worry too much about the defense. As long as we can build a solid, average defense out there, I think there's really nothing to be majorly concerned about.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any more thoughts on the Snead trade.
No, I don't either. Really.
You want to move on to your Wildcats, man, and kind of how their season is, and be the last time we talk about it.
Yeah, man, K-State, they had high expectations this season in basketball. They came off an Elite Eight run last year. Unfortunately, it just didn't really work out that way, man. Tomlin had the whole situation with the fight at one of the bars and never got to play a single game this year, got kicked off the team. Quace Glover, another guy that was supposed to play valuable minutes, never got to play. So I think K-State did what they could with who they had on their team, on their roster, made a push, kept themselves kind of in the NCAA tournament hopes race throughout the season. But overall, I think K-State fans expected more for the season compared to how the first year went for Jerome Tang. And at this point, we just got to look towards the next season and what's next for K-State. Obviously, Cam Carter went to the transfer portal, and now he's going to be playing at LSU. Dorian Finister, also another guy to leave. Nobody else at this point has yet to leave, but we could see another couple guys maybe hit the transfer portal or, enter their name into the NBA draft waters. But, no news is good news for K-State fans on that regard. Just hope that most of those guys come back and want to go at it again. So some of the things I want to say for like notable transfers that they've been talking to, Terrace Reed, he's a Michigan guy who averaged 9.7 rebounds and I believe like a block and a half for the Wolverines. He just had his first visit and he chose K-State to go visit, so that could be a good sign for him. They need another front court kind of guy who can hold it down, take over Will McNair's spot. He's got some competition, but it's good to see that he came to Kansas State first. He has good connections with one of the assistant coaches in Rodney Perry. He played on a couple of his AAU teams. Some other notable transfers that K-State might be looking into is Vashawn Alede. He averaged 17.6 boards, 3 assists at Old Dominion. Apparently they have good confidence in landing a guy like him, as well as like Doug McDaniel, another Michigan guy who's a sophomore, 16 points, 5 assists, probably the best player on that Michigan roster this year. He's been in contact with K-State as well. And then they're also looking at some other guys, like Amari Williams from Drexel, the big man from Rutgers, and then a couple other guys that most people probably wouldn't know about. And then the only freshman they got coming in at the moment is David Castillo, but he's a really good recruit. Should fit in nice, but K-State's really just looking to get another front court player and then also get another veteran guard out there in case Case Glover doesn't come back, which he could come back if he wanted to, but there is no news on that at the moment.
I think you're right. No news is not good news. You know what I mean? If you're Kansas State, you mentioned the lofty expectations that Kansas State had going into, I guess, this previous season. I remember, like, you and I were talking, like, we were saying that they should be like a top 25 team entering the season and whatnot because of what Jerome Tang did, obviously, with his squad in his first year. But I think they'll be okay. Jerome Tang's been very successful, I think, in the transfer portal his first couple of years at Kansas State, getting guys obviously like Keontae Johnson and obviously Tyler Perry and whatnot. So I'm not going to sit here and act like Kansas State's going to be like Big 12 title contenders in basketball next year. But yeah, they're probably going to go to March or at least be in the bubble for March, I would presume. I think Tang has established a culture that we really haven't seen within Kansas State basketball since, I don't know, maybe the Frank Martin days. I don't know if that's an accurate comparison, but I think as long as Jerome Tang's on the team and he can motivate the guys and get a culture going, I think they'll be okay. But they probably do need do a little bit more from the high school recruiting aspect, in my opinion. I mean, I think they're always going to be okay, like I said multiple times in the transfer portal with Jerome. But yeah, they probably need to start looking or doing a little bit better job getting high school recruits if possible.
See, like if you ask me, I don't know if you ask my personal opinion, I think they probably are fine just considering they got Rich coming back, Ames coming back, Jones coming back. Those are all sophomores. Taj Manning's going to be a sophomore. Jarrell Colbert, he's only going to be a junior next year. So they got a lot of young guys to work around. David Castillo comes in. That's where, like I said, the transfer portal is going to be notable for them. They need to get a veteran player to help Ames and Castillo and also like RJ Jones develop into better players. And not really keep all the heat on them, because they got a lot of pressure coming into it. If they don't, K-State can't grab a veteran guard, they're going to have to run the offense. And that's a lot of pressure for a young guy in a Big 12 conference, man. I thought Ames handled himself pretty well this year, but, Big 12 is only going to get harder. And they need that veteran presence. Hopefully, Case Glover comes back for another year. But like you said, I think the transfer portal is going to be huge for K-State. And hopefully we can see a couple guys sign in the next month or two.
Yeah, and I only mentioned, for the future, maybe not so much this offseason or whatever, but in the future, I think Tang needs to attack high school recruits more because that's really how you bring them in and keep them, man. I mean, yeah, you see a lot of freshmen up and leave nowadays if they don't, play, but that's usually, a lot of those times it's those big 5-star recruit freshmen that are doing that. You get those underrated, granted, it's hard to find them, but you can find those good high schoolers, man, that are 3 or 4-star recruits. Like you said, Castillo, isn't he a 4-star recruit?
Yeah, he's a top 50 player in ESPN right now.
You see, that's perfect. That's the kind of guys that Jerome tends to go after. Still top 100 recruit by ESPN. So yeah, he needs to keep attacking guys like that and attacking the transfer portal, and I think they'll be okay for next year. Like I said, I don't know if they're going to be winning the Big 12 or anything like that necessarily, but I think they'll be fine.
No, I agree. Like, the last thing I just want to throw in there is, I think the biggest question at this point is, like I said, Case Glover's return, and then if Arthur Kaluma is going to come back for another year, if he's going to try to go to the NBA or transfer somewhere else. But I don't think he's NBA ready, so I think he should be back. But like I said, those are probably the two biggest questions for K-State at the moment.
I think he needs to come back. I think Kansas State needs him though as well. I mean, as much as a lot of Kansas State fans kind of have a love-hate relationship with Arthur Kaluma because he kind of really inconsistent. But he's a veteran player that can start in a Power 5 conference on any team. It never hurts to have guys like that. So, yeah, I mean, if I was a Kansas State fan, I would not be complaining personally if Kaluma returned. But yeah, maybe not be forced to use them as much as you had to this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Keep the ball out of his hands. Don't let the ball, like the offense, run through him. He's just got a problem handling the ball, not turning the ball over. But he's a great shooter, man, and they're going to need shooting. They lost a lot of their 3-point shooting with Carter and Perry leaving, so they need him back for sure.
That's going to be a huge question mark for you guys. I think is really just shooting. I mean, yeah. I'm not. Yeah, those young guys that didn't get a whole lot of playing time. We don't really know if they're shooters. You know what I mean. So you just have to wait and see. But
yep, that pretty much wraps it up, I think, for K-State season, man. Like you said, just got to look for the next one. Keep an eye out for seeing if they get any notable transfers or anything like that in the next month or two.
Yeah, definitely. But guess I'll talk about my Jayhawks now. Yeah, I'm not even gonna bring up the Gonzaga game. We already know what happened with that. We choked and got our asses kicked. Long story short, but overall, this was the most overrated team in the Bill Self era, if not in the entire nation, in my opinion, next to Michigan State. KU entered the season ranked number 1 by the Associated Press and by the coaches poll. They were listed as plus 1,000 favorites to win the chip this year as well by Vegas. In a nutshell, some obvious reasons why KU underperformed. They had little to no 3-point shooting or any consistent shooting from anywhere on the floor for that matter. Obviously, we had no depth after Morris's dismissal. This absolutely devastated any depth that we might have had. And KU was already dealing with a scholarship reduction because of the whole ordeal with Silvio De Sousa and his guardian getting paid and whatnot. So we already had a scholarship reduction because of that. And then Zach Clements, he redshirted, which brought KU to just, I believe it was either 8 or 9 scholarships. I can't remember, but it was either 8 or 9. And of course, there was injuries. And, naturally, these injuries led to problems as a whole. And I think this team, at some point, in particular after the McCullough injury, I think they thought the season was almost lost. And I believe this for a reason, because Bill Self even said this after the loss to Gonzaga. He said, I think for the last month, I've been thinking about next season. To be honest, not in moments during a game, but obviously we played. We had 8 guys on scholarships, so it was 8 guys that were healthy there late. Injuries are a part of the game. That's not an excuse, but we could have done a much better job as a staff putting more guys out there that we can play. And so that's something I thought about for a very long time. So I think I'm not going to say he's lying there, but I think maybe a little bit longer than a month he was focused on this upcoming season. Like I said, I just think the focus was gone at some point late January, early February. I think all focus left the window with this team. And, we obviously still got players that need to make decisions. I think Dickinson's going to return at this point. He's going to make good money off NIL deals. I'm not paying too much attention to mock drafts, but he's not going to get drafted, and I already know that. Furphy, he's going to go to the draft, I'm sure. I don't know why he wouldn't. And I don't know if I believe this, but KJ Adams, have you heard those rumors that he might potentially transfer?
Yeah, but that's just more of like a speculation because of what he said in the press conference. He wasn't entirely sure if he's going to come back, but like I don't see why he wouldn't, man. Like he's going to be the starting guy. And Dickinson's got a chance to come back again. You already got DeJuan Harris coming back. So I don't see why he'd leave. Yeah, I don't see why he'd leave, but I mean, I guess there is always that chance in the back of their mind, that it could happen, but I don't think it's going to happen personally.
Yeah, I don't fully buy into those either. But at the same time, he hasn't avidly come out to the media and squashed those rumors, unlike our Marco Jackson.
Yeah.
So I guess he's up in the air. But so that's my wrap up of this year. But I guess this previous year. But this upcoming year, I think there's a lot to look forward to. According to On3.com, KU has the seventh best recruiting class in the nation and the ninth best recruiting class, according to 247 Sports' composite rankings. So they at least have a top 10 recruiting class coming to the next year. And some notable guys we signed. KU has signed a five-star center Flory Beduga. ESPN has him as the best center in the class, the best center regionally, and number one in the state of Indiana. I believe he's from the Congo, but he went to high school in Indiana, and so best player in the state of Indiana. He's also ninth on ESPN's top 100 with a scout grade of 92. And this guy's going to be really interesting because he's like only 6'8" or 6'9". So he's kind of an undersized center, but Bill Self loves small ball lineups, especially if he has shooters around him. So I think it'll be real interesting to see how this guy gets used. If Dickinson comes back and KJ Adams comes back, there's no way this guy gets any playing time, though. I don't think, really, not in this first year. But another recruit we got is point guard the Baron Phylan. Phylan is the 30th best in ESPN's top 100. He's the 8th best point guard in the class, the 9th best point guard regionally, and the best point guard overall in the state of Alabama. So that's nice that at least we potentially have somebody to take the torch over for when DeJuan inevitably has to leave after this upcoming season. So hopefully he sticks around. And the last notable recruit that has signed with Kansas so far is Rakeez Passmore. He's a shooting guard, and he's 36th in ESPN's top 100. He's the 6th best shooting guard in the class and the 4th best in the state of North Carolina. So there's optimism for going into next year, and I don't see how this upcoming year's team won't have more depth surrounding the starters. You know what I mean? It just seems impossible to have the same lack of depth that Kansas had this last year.
No, like you said, I agree, man. I think they got a lot of good players coming in. It's just the matter of fact, if KU is going to utilize those guys off the bench, you got Marco Jackson coming back, like you said, and then it's interesting to see if what's the other guy's name that comes off the bench, like McDowell or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jamari McDowell.
yeah, interesting to see if he will come back or if he's going to transfer. Because with all these new guys coming in, the shooting guard, the point guard, it's interesting to see if he's really got a role on this KU team or if he's going to take his talents elsewhere. Because he didn't really fit into a consistent role this year, and I don't know if I see him fitting in a consistent role next year either. So I don't know if he's going to stick around and wait for his opportunity to arise or if he's going to dip out after that.
That's such a 50-50 thing between McDowell and Jackson because one of those two has to be the starting shooting guard. So, I mean, it's kind of inevitable, and especially if Furphy returns, man. I think McDowell's probably gonna have to dip. I don't see a role for him on this team, but I absolutely believe though if Furphy's gone that he can obviously compete with our Marco for the starting role.
Well,
If Bill Self notices during like boot camp or training camp, whatever, that he's out hustling and out playing El Marco, he'll get the starting role
well,
easily.
all I gotta say is, man, I know you haven't checked too much into KU transfers that they're going after, but a really notable player that they're looking at right now is from South Dakota State, Zeke Mayo. He went to college. I mean, he went to high school in Lawrence, Kansas, and he averages 19.6
Okay.
rebounds, 3.5 steal assists. So I could see him if they can land him, which I feel like they have a pretty good chance at it. I think that he could probably be the starting shooting guard with DeJuan Harris.
No, I definitely heard of him though.
Yeah, he's a talented player. I think he's got more potential than Nick Timberlake, a guy like that. Zeke Mayo is a flat out scorer. He's a baller. And like I said, he's a Lawrence native, so I would not be surprised if they can get him to land and go to KU. And I think if he gets there, he's gonna be starting at shooting guard. I don't think they're gonna be able to compete with him for a starting shooting guard role, especially with his experience at the D1 level.
No, and you know how Bill Self, especially as Bill Self has gotten older, you know how he values veterans over young
Yeah.
guys. We're not in the one and done era of college basketball anymore. Like these veteran guys that are coming in from transfer portals, like remember guys like Grant Nelson or Dalton Kincaid or Dalton Kennett and guys like that. Those guys are what coaches need and want nowadays.
Oh
So,
yeah.
um, yeah.
I mean, we saw like you said, we saw Grant Nelson drop like 24 points for Alabama to help them win and get to the Elite Eight the other night. And then, like I said, man, with KU, if they can get honestly, I think they need another veteran guard in the backcourt to help DeJuan Harris, to really make this KU team to get to the next level. If Dickinson comes back, if Murphy comes back, I think this team's going to be a lethal team in the Big 12 and can compete for a national championship. But I think they need at least one more veteran guy at least to step up and be a solid transfer for him. It looks like right now from what I've seen that Zeke Mayo is probably going to be the main guy they're looking at. Also, they're looking at like Colby Rogers from Wichita State, who averaged 16 points. And then they're looking at a couple big men too. But notably, I think Colby Rogers or Zeke Mayo is going to be a guy who can step in and really help the backcourt of KU moving forward for next season.
Well, Mayo would be nice because if he has that point guard experience, that's nice because Jamari McDowell and Elmarco Jackson they're not natural passers of the basketball. They're not natural point guards. So, yeah, that'd be nice to have somebody that at least has some abilities of that nature, along with scoring, because obviously we know DeJuan he's not that kind of guy to go up there and put 19 or 20 up a game. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting guys, and I think knowing KU, we're gonna get at least one guy, maybe not one of those, but one of those guys of their caliber. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, bummer year kind of for both of our teams in basketball. But that's okay. As they always say, there's next year, and this year's not over. We still got March Madness still.
Yeah.
Even though UNC fucked up my bracket, but that's okay.
I mean, honestly, at this point, I'm rooting for NC State, man. Got to root for the Cinderella, the 11 seed. I think they got a good chance of making the Final Four. It's going to be a tough one, but they played really well to impress me so far at this point.
Dude, I think Bryce got insider information because dude had them going to like the Elite Eight or Final Four.
It's crazy that they won 5 games in 5 days in the ACC tournament, and then they weren't even supposed to be in the tournament, bro, at all. Now they're in the Elite Eight, fighting for a spot for the Final Four. So, I mean, shout out them, dude. That's what I'm kind of hoping to get a spot in the Final Four. If you ask me.
NC State is the reason why so many people are bitching about how the NCAA conference tournaments are ran in terms of like automatic bidding and whatnot.
I mean, what can you do, man? Like, it all comes down to politics. Sports are politics too, man. We always see it with the committees and college football, college basketball. It's kind of sad, leaving some good teams out just because they don't think they deserve to be in there. But it's good to see a team like NC State get to the tournament when they're not supposed to and make a run and kind of like prove the committee wrong in a sense.
Well, I mean, they won the ACC tournament. That's not like a little mid-major conference. You know what I mean? That's they had to go up against Clemson, Duke, North Carolina. So it's that's a legit conference. I'll give them credit. I'm not giving North Carolina any grief, but I'm just saying teams like North Carolina State are the reasons why people are really complaining about the automatic bidding and whatnot. But that's whatever.
What can you do, man?
No, I think if you're winning a Power 5 conference, you definitely get that automatic bid, in my opinion. I think that's undisputable.
Oh, 100%, man. Especially like a team like them, like you said, if they're not supposed to be in there, and they kind of prove that they belong. So, and like you said, ACC is a really tough conference. They got 3 teams in the Elite Eight right now, the most that I'm pretty sure any conference right now. So, shout out them. Like, they proved wrong. People try to say the ACC was a weaker conference this year, but Like I think they kind of showed the committee wrong and showed that they could all compete in big time games.
Dude, yeah, Big 12 got no one in there. It's
Yeah,
like, what the heck?
they got shit on, man. To be honest, Iowa State didn't get it done. We knew Iowa State wasn't going far. I didn't have them getting past the Sweet 16 anyhow. But Houston kind of surprised me. Jamal Shed got injured, so sucks for them.
Yeah,
Kind of a bad injury at a bad time. But what can you do? You know, it's just part of the game.
yeah. No, I don't know if you heard Kevin Sampson, Houston's coach, about his press conference after the game about Sneed or whatever, or Seed. And I'm like, man, I felt so bad. I kind of felt bad for Houston after that. I'm not going to lie.
Well, they can't win without him, bro. He's like the best player they got.
Now, oh yeah, dude. I mean, defensive, Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year and the Big 12 Player of the Year. That's unbelievable. Dude was easily the best player.
Yeah, just a bad injury at a bad time, man. Like I said, you know, like with him in the game in the second half, I think they win that game. But you know, like I said, it's part of the game. You win some, you lose some. Sometimes injuries happens at the worst times. KU knows that this year personally, you know, with McCullough going out and all that. So you know, you just got to learn to adapt. Houston unfortunately couldn't, but Big 12, honestly, Big 12 in a whole, just a disappointing year, I guess we could say.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like not a single team is even gonna go to like the Elite Eight or Final Four or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, I'm not saying they got to go win the Natty or something, but it's like, come on, this team or this conference year after year got like 8 or 9 uh, teams in the top 25 every year by March.
yeah, dude. I think Big 12 just kind of choked it this year, man. So it's just not a good look for them.
Yeah,
Oh well.
yeah, yeah. In the last 4 years, though, we got two of them. If you want to include, obviously Baylor and KU. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, and probably going to be Big Ten or Big East school winning it all this year.
Yeah, Connecticut gonna be hard to stop, man. I just saw actually during this video, I just saw they just went on a 30-0 run against Illinois. That's ridiculous.
Bro, against Illinois, that's even more insane.
Yeah, so I don't think anybody's stopping them, man. They're probably going back to back.
No, bro, I think Zach Edey can put up 30 and 20 all he wants, so they're not going to be able to stop everyone from dropping 20 on their heads.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough to beat UConn this year. Back to back champions, most likely, but we'll see how it goes, man. You know, still a couple games left, so.
Dude, I don't know if you noticed on the top of your head, but what was the last school to go back to back? Was it like
Florida.
UCLA?
No, it was Florida in like 2007. I'm pretty sure.
I think you're right, dude.
Yeah.
2006 and 2007. I think you're right.
Yeah, I think it was like Joakim Noah was on that squad or something.
Yeah, Baylor could have potentially done it during the COVID year. I mean, it would have been them or KU in my opinion, but
yeah,
that's just my opinion. I've already told you that, but
yeah,
they're probably going to go back to back though. You know, as much as people are going to hate it, but I mean that'd be kind of cool though to see Purdue and UConn in the chip.
yeah. It would be a nice game, bro. I think because I think they match up pretty well overall.
Yeah, and more particular Donovan Cleveland and obviously Zach Edey, but yeah, because I think UConn's guards are vastly better than Purdue's.
Dude, I will say, Braden Smith has impressed me though, man. In this tournament, he dropped like 15 assists yesterday or something like that. Like he's been a really good guard as a sophomore, especially. Like I'm surprised, dude's been playing as well as he has.
Well, you know, Zach Edey did say if he's not an All-American, then I don't want to be an All-American or something along those lines. So, yeah,
Yeah, so you got to give credit where it's due because I didn't expect him to be that good, man. Like he's definitely proved me wrong.
Yeah, definitely. But
yeah.
Any final thoughts, dude, on anything we talked about before we wrap it up?
No, not really. Like I said, man, it'll just be interesting to see how the transfer portal plays out. If any notable guys end up leaving KU or K State, or if any notable guys come into those programs. So we'll just have to wait and see. Only time will tell. I'm sure a lot more guys will enter the transfer portal too as the season concludes here in another couple weeks. So, yeah, just it's a time game, man. Just wait and see and hope for the best.
Yep, and yeah, we'll have to talk about the Royals eventually.
The season just started though.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking. Yeah, not really a whole lot to talk about at the moment, but
Probably not a very good season this year either. I don't have too high hopes for the Royals either, man.
nah. I mean, nah. I mean, there's been a lot of hype around around Kansas City. I don't know if you really heard about all the big signings and stuff we got this off season, but
Yeah, but I don't know, man. Like they just haven't been good in the last like not gonna say the last decade at this point, almost. So.
no, I still, yeah, I'll love the Royals and I'll keep up with them, but yeah, they're at this point. I just have to see it to believe it. Like if
Yeah,
so, until they win the AL Central and actually go to the playoffs, I'm just gonna not get my hopes up too high.
exactly.
All right, bro. But peace out, y'all, and see
Later,
you later on.
later, man.